welcome to the online preview of the 2020 Study of Interventions for Organizational Development in SEA, India, and Hong Kong study results. This is a pioneering research developed by Afni Martin, Nandini Das Gosai, and Maria Sortzaki. Okay, I really apologize if I pronounce any of these names wrongly because such a global, audience and research team. And there will also be a panel discussion to discuss the implications of the findings, key challenges, and opportunities in developing organizations in these unprecedented times. So in the audience, you can see from the chat box below, we have a global audience. We also have HR professionals, C-suites. We have so many coaches here as well. And right now, I've also heard, as I mentioned, from the Director of Research, Afni herself, that the results of the survey show some very surprising results and findings. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Afni Martin. She is our Director of Research, and Afni has volunteered over 500 hours in bringing this project from a dream to reality and bringing communities across the regions and industries together. Afni is the founder of an ICF accredited coach training school, coach trainer, mentor to coaches, and also inner child integration therapist. Afni works with coaches, teams, and organizations to change mindsets, cultures, and behavior. So without further ado, can I have a virtual applause? Okay, this is a virtual applause. You're gonna do this. This is called a virtual applause. Okay, can I see everybody's virtual applause, please? Okay, a virtual applause for Afni Martin, our head of research.
Thank you very much, Ray, for that very, very, very warm welcome and introduction to the project and setting the context for our event. Very, very grateful, Ray, to have you as our host and MC. So thank you everyone for being here with us today and making the time this Saturday afternoon. It's wonderful to have you here. Let me start by introducing our key partners and collaborators. Our gratitude really goes to all the ICF chapters and HR institutes across the region who have partnered with us to collaborate on the project. And the leadership, the enthusiasm, the friendships that have developed over the years, and contributions by each and every single leader with these organizations is deeply appreciated by ICF Singapore and our team. I would also like to introduce and acknowledge our team. Maria will be taking care of the chat as well today. She is a co-writer of the research report. Tanya, she's our communications expert. Nanni, she is she's the research consultant. Deepak has done all the graphs and charts for the entire report. Chaya has done a lot of communications, and Anne has designed the look and feel of the report. So thank you very much to our team for their contributions to make our dream a reality. Let me start by sharing the purpose of the project. As a coaching institute, we wanted to better understand the current state of play for interventions for OD and how coaching is positioned within OD and how the industry is evolving. And to do this in a more comprehensive way, we wanted to bring different communities across different regions and industries together that are very strong standing alone, and they're even stronger standing together, listening to one another, sharing ideas, and exchanging knowledge. And we have created that dream today by having ICF chapters across multiple regions, HR institutes and organizations sharing, speaking, and meeting together.
Welcome back. Okay, so I hope that that breakout session was really fruitful and you got to meet new coaches or experts or HR specialists from people from all around the world. If you enjoyed the breakout room, can you tell us in the chat if you enjoyed it? Yes. Okay, I'm seeing many yes. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Thumbs up. I'm sure everybody is really excited to hear from our esteemed panelists for today. So just to introduce a little bit of the panel themselves. Okay, so the first person on our panel we have is Angelina Muki. She is now the president-elect of the People's Management Association of the Philippines, the country's leading association of people managers. She is a thought leader with a track record in people strategy development, change management, and execution of transformation initiatives, as well as the full spectrum of HR operations. She's also the author of 2 books, Smart Moves in the Workplace and Smart Moves for Working Women. Hi, Angelina.
Hi, Ray. So happy to be here. Welcome, everyone. It's been a great session so far, and I'm sure we have more interesting discussions coming up.
Awesome. Wow, Angelina looking really bright today. Okay, so our next panelist is Alvin Goh. He is the Executive Director SHRI Singapore, and he is right now leading a non-profit professional HR body, which represents a strong network of members comprising individuals and organizations across diverse industries. Alvin has more than 15 years of international experience in HR leadership roles with key strategic and decision-making responsibilities and possesses a strong passion for human capital management and transformation. Hi, Alvin.
Hi Ray, thanks for the introduction. Hi everyone, glad to be on the panel itself. Looking forward to our discussions and also the questions that are. I had a little sneak peek in my little breakout group itself earlier on. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Alvin. Next up on our panel, we have Selena Lim. She is the director of OD. She's the OD director of Intel Asia. In her experience of over a decade, she has led and developed a team of internal HR consultants in delivering solutions to the rapid and dynamic organizational transformations and development. She has her expertise in transition change management, leadership and culture development, talent management, assessing organization capability, designing relevant organization or people solutions. Hi, Selena.
Hello. Hi, everybody. It's great to be part of this conversation, and thank you very much to ICF for organizing and bringing different communities together. Just a quick preview from the questions earlier. I'm just super glad that, we are connecting, there's so many people thinking about similar issues and having the same vision to move coaching forward.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Selena. Next up on our panel, we have Jean-Francois Cosson. And once again, I'm so sorry if I pronounced his name wrong. Okay, you have to correct me later. He's right now the ICF Global Chairman 2019, based in Thailand, and he has been a global executive coach since 2006. He has since served 12,000, and I'm sure now more because that was a couple of months ago, 12,000 coaching hours, served over 1,000 executives and dozens of executive teams, traveling to 35 countries of 5 continents to work with them. He is accredited as a Master Certified Coach by the International Coach Federation, the highest distinction in the profession. And he coaches CEOs, region, and country presidents and board members. Hi, Jean.
And hi.
Please correct me for how do I pronounce your name?
You did that very well, and everybody calls me JF anyway.
Yes.
Also, my full initials JFC. I do sometimes also respond to KFC or JFK. It's all good. And I want to say I'm so very happy to be with you all in such a very unique kind of historical moment where our communities come together as one. And I thank ICF Singapore, Avni and the team for having made that possible through amazing body of research. Looking forward to the debate and to interacting with everyone.
Lovely. JFC. Yeah, I'm sure JFC here has a really good sense of humor. And last but not least, to introduce our last and final panel panelists, we have Gangpriya Chakravarti. She is the president of the Chennai chapter and board member of the National HRD Network, India's largest body for HR professionals. She's also the managing director at Ford's Global Business Services Organization. She has a bachelor's degree in psychology and a postgraduate degree in personnel management and industrial relations. And she is an ICF certified coach too. Hi, Gangpriya.
Hi.
Gangapriya. So sorry, Gangapriya.
Hi, I hope you can hear me. First of all, thanks so much for this opportunity to be on this esteemed panel. Looking forward to this very exciting discussion. From what I have seen so far, this is such a diverse set of participants from pretty much across the world, I think. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of learning for everyone that's on this call. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
So I'll be passing the time on to our lovely moderators, Afni and Nandini.
Thank you very, very much, Ray. And thank you very much to all of our esteemed panelists. We are very, very grateful to have you here. Alvin, Gangapriya, Selena, JF, and Angelina. Thank you very much for being with us here today. We'd love to hear from the panelists about what are your thoughts on the impact of doing this research and creating this report and bringing these communities together.
2020 is also the start of a new decade that reflects the entrance of the digital nomads, all right, that's coming out into the workforce, and timely that organizations are also responding to the rapid evolving needs of the workforce as a result of COVID-19. We're also seeing the beginnings of collective leadership, which, you know, as this research report has put together various ICF chapters around the world, multiple countries itself, and that's basically collective leadership itself, right?
Friends, there's one thing that we can really be sure about today. This virtual world is our reality. It's our new normal, and it can become the better normal depending on how we shape it.
I think studies such as this serve several purposes, and they sort of speak very differently to people who actually use them.
COVID has presented itself a trend for us to see that there are some clear differences in kind of the individualistic versus the collectivism versions of cultures. So I'd really like to kind of figure out, right, how do we collaborate more as we move forward to present more of kind of the body of knowledge from Asia and be able to compare and contrast to see whether there are nuances related in this view between different cultures as well.
OD is at the forefront of managing change at this moment that calls for reimagination, and I would even say reinvention of the way we are and the way we lead and the way we coach, in fact.
Selena, I'd love to hear from you about, because you are, as we were speaking before, you're working in the trenches, you are the OD practitioner, you know, in charge of organizational development across Asia for Intel. So, you know, being the person who is doing OD day in, day out, what are your thoughts on how the interventions are evolving and changing, and what trends or gaps or overlaps are you seeing?
I think one thing that I would probably validate is that, you know, from the research results, we're seeing that training, for example, is often the beginning point. You know, when we are having conversations with business leaders, managers, etc., what comes to mind as a solution is always training. However, what we are learning as well is that we have an opportunity to turn training really into a more, I would say, a different kind of an OD solution. And that process actually is being guided by OD consultants internally, you know, practitioners, based on how we apply different OD lenses in terms of diagnosing as well as development of the intervention. What we've seen recently as well is that, you know, and I'm not sure how much of this has also the cultural element to it, is that, you know, by creating experiences of even small little experiences for people to actually go through, they actually develop greater appreciation of, you know, what you could put on the table beyond training. So at this point in time, what I'm kind of challenging my team to do is really think about that, fine, if you're getting training as a request, how could we then, deepen the conversation for these to really bring in other elements, be it, coaching, be it team, individual coaching, team coaching, or just kind of systemic solutions beyond that. I think, it's also, we're starting to also see that, training is moving away more and more from just pure knowledge and skill acquisition, kind of pointing back to the few points there. And it's turning more into, how do we help change and shift mindsets? How do we help people build support systems that, connect them to real life challenges? So internally, we are really starting to experiment more on, how do we help people to learn in the flow of work? Given this kind of environment that we're in, even time becomes a very expensive commodity that we have to all compete with. So thinking through how to design that in and how to prepare for them to rebound from challenges, right? Because I think many training professionals will probably realize we deliver great training, but none of them might really stick, because the first thing that people experience the moment they have a challenge, they would say, this is too hard for me. I'm not going to go into that space, right? So I think in this age of information and knowledge where it's widely available, I think one of our challenge as a community here is, how do we help the masses to have the ability to learn how to learn, to integrate the learning into their work and practice, and then to translate it to real practice and habit. And that's the new capability that we will need here.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. And Selena, that really reminds me of the research that was done by HCI. They interviewed 500 CEOs about what makes leadership and organizational development change initiatives be sustainable. And they came up with 4 things there. And out of those 4 things, you've actually almost like summarized all of those 4 things in your conversation, really. They said that context is important, of course, that, that what you're doing has to fit the company. Shifting mindsets is another big thing that they mentioned, that if any initiative can actually shift the mindsets and the way people think, then that's going to be more sustainable. And then after the mindset is shift, they said that it has to be around actions, like you have to put it into real actions and then be able to measure it. So, a lot of these things you just shared, so it very much relates to a lot of the research that's done around it. And that also explains how training is now starting to evolve and shift to becoming deeper, more mindset driven. Thank you for sharing that. So Alvin, what are your thoughts on this? How are the interventions evolving from your perspective?
So what really comes to mind is, number one, that we really need to redesign and repurpose, right, a lot of our HR interventions, be it training, be it com and ben, be it OD and L, as the world continues to evolve, right? So there is a lot of sentiments here in the Singapore and perhaps also in the region that a lot of the business leaders are waiting for things to happen, all right, and before adopting and changing. My view is that we should not prevent things from happening. We should actually embrace these changes that is going to come forward. And there's one thing that I really like to see, and is that imagine if we were to combine the various OD lenses, all right, beyond just designing target operating models, designing revenue models and so forth, and put together every HR function component together and create this thing, what I call a people intelligence view. All right. And with that people intelligence view to combine and complement the business intelligence, that will then really make the HR function itself really becoming a true blue strategic business partner.
Gangapriya, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, training being the most popular OD intervention is really not surprising. It's been around for a long time. It's been the primary tool to enable employees to do their jobs effectively, build the skills that are required. And we've seen it also sort of evolve with changes in technology and disruptions in business, because, constantly employees have to pick up new skills. The organizations have to sort of figure out what will work for them in the future. So I think upskilling as an imperative, especially in this VUCA world, seems quite intuitively it sort of makes sense, and in reality as well, we see that happening. Besides, most organizations have in-house training teams. Yeah, and there are capabilities that enable training as an OD intervention to be run as well as to be done effectively.
What could be the role of external coaches in organizations, given that this is an overwhelming intention that is being expressed by the industry? I think we will first start with Lynn. Lynn, what are your views on this?
When the internal practitioner has expertise in OD, there is better partnership with the external coach or consultant. There is greater depth in the diagnosis, which is very critical to designing the organization's interventions. Without clarity in the diagnosis, the intervention may not be the most appropriate. And that happens only when there's a real partnership, there's transparency in sharing information and the context, and the person internal to the organization has the expertise to anticipate what might be needed. With that, the organization will be better equipped to take forward the initiatives in the long term so that culture and people development are sustained. That is key, sustainability, and that's where we get the real value.
The industry is overwhelmingly, again, saying that they would like their service providers to have expertise in multiple interventions at the same time. And while, they've given some nuances as answers, but I would really like to hear from you that what do you feel is the key driver for this need for multiple interventions from the same provider? From JFK, and especially with the coaching perspective, it would be wonderful to hear from you.
I just wanted to share, based on the experience of some of my clients who have hired multiple services providers, right? Perhaps the metaphor is like you hire an orchestra conductor, and then the orchestra conductor comes with the full band, right? And it takes only one of the musicians for the music to go really wrong, in fact. And when it comes to coaching, there is this perhaps note of kind of warning, I would say, make sure, and I'm speaking to my HR colleagues, right? Make sure when you hire multiple services providers that when it comes to coaching, they do not employ amateur coaches, because amateur coaches, like amateur musicians in a professional band, will just risk ruin the music. And it's unfortunately quite frequent that perhaps some recruitment consultancies or consulting firms will have their kind of amateur coaches inside, right? And by amateur, I mean they do a few hours a month to just help out with contracts, right? So my invitation is to make sure they don't ruin the dynamic. Then you interview them, you have them actually coach you right there and then in the interview, and you assess their caliber. So you make sure there will be good musicians in the band that the multiple services provider brings in fact. Make sense?
In fact, this question goes to Alvin. Alvin, if that's okay. From your perspective, what are you seeing as an impact of OD, as an impact of COVID for OD?
2020 is not only about COVID-19, it's also about all these changes, but more importantly, it has given us a sneak peek into what the future holds in 2021 and beyond. And 2021 and beyond is about all things new ways of working, new workforce compositions that's coming into the workforce. I'm seeing also the enhancements and the growth of the gig economy as organizations realize that, hey, look, I can start to offshore the work easily and much more better, and productivity will still also be there, right? New operating requirements as people have work from home policies, new infrastructure from the digital side is coming into play. No more walking to the meeting rooms and waiting for people to arrive in the meeting room physically. You know, everybody just click on a button and there we are, here we are, you know, on the Zoom panel itself. So 2021 and beyond, all right, is going to give us a lot of new things, new flexible working arrangements, as I said, OKRs, perhaps, you know, new training methods as well, using gamifications, as what we're also seeing in the workplace today. All right, a lot of training has been taken on from the virtual platforms, and gamifications is actually coming alive. And that what makes me so excited about going into the future itself. All right, training is not going to be much more trainer-led, you know, or facilitator-led. It's going to be so much more fun about it. Right? And it brings back to me childhood memories about playing games and learning from my gaming days as well. So I think that's something that COVID-19 itself has brought about.
I'd really love to hear from JF. You know, what are your thoughts on how the pandemic is impacting the industry?
I quite concur with Alvin, actually. I see the COVID crisis as actually an accelerator to the future that we were going to have anyhow, in fact, and also as an acid test of the strengths of our organizations, right? Are they tele-robust or are they tele-fragile, right? And in that context, that's a bit traumatic for a while to employees. Of course, I'm delighted to see an upward trend in one-on-one interventions, in fact, right? Because employees can be disorientated and lose some of their positive energy because the uncertainty attacks as much as their sense of self and, of course, their vision of your future and their relationships, all the same, which our neuroscience has shown boosters of or busters of positive energy, right? So in that context, we've got to keep in mind that coaching, well, the coach actually role models the support, the unconditional love, I would say, that will help employees to regain a sense of hope, a sense of self, clarity for their way forward. And whether the coach is a leader acting as a coach or an internal coach or an external coach, right? And so making sure coaches can do their work well remotely throughout this period is obviously going to help a lot. And I'm seeing that at play. I'm seeing more and more organizations offering just-in-time coaching and also just-in-time counseling, all the same. Very important. Avin?
One of the questions is to you again, JF, actually, because how do we really turn this idea of 41% who are interested in coaching to real contracts? So how can coaches work to turning interest into contracts and also remedial tool into indispensable tool? So I guess what I'm asking is, how can coaches unleash the potential of coaching itself?
Yeah, and just to let all of the statistics in that question speak, right? Next to 41% as coaching is interesting, there was 22% people thinking it's indispensable, 14% thinking it's a prestige symbol. And when you contrast the numbers with what we would have gotten like just 5 years ago, right? Well, the 11% of remedial at that time was probably going to get the outright majority of the votes, like 50%, right? Because there was that now outdated perception that coaching was used to fix flawed executives. And the truth is it doesn't work that well, right? So the first thing, it doesn't work well at all, actually, right? It's not a fixing tool, it's a developmental approach, right? So this needs to be further clarified. I guess there are only a few percent of people who are perhaps outdated in their perception of what coaching is all about. I want to say also, out of fairness, that when we look at a global survey, in fact, which was carried out recently by the Human Capital Institute, and they interviewed people in 5 continents, 100 plus countries. They showed that coaching was very satisfied, or people were very satisfied or satisfied with coaching, up to 78%. In fact, so in line with what your survey showed, Avni, right? And very interestingly also, they found out that the two most effective intervention on that worldwide gauge were one-on-one coaching and group coaching, group work coaching with a professional coach practitioner, in fact. And that, I think, is perhaps something we can survey next time around, right? Work group coaching, in fact. So we catalyze the intelligence of teams as coaches know how to, in fact, right? Now, my advice to coaches, right, to help further advance the respect for the industry is to really, as David Peterson, who's the former head of coaching at Google, said, right, in your coaching sessions, go fast to the heart of the matter, go deep, right? Explore in depth in this zone of discomfort, and then come out very strong with a compelling action plan for people to do. So as a result, your coaches will not just be satisfied, they will be satisfied way over their expectation, and then will become ambassadors for coaching. In fact,
to summarize, like, what are some of the challenges and opportunities around ROI, and why are companies not measuring ROI?
The return on investment of OD, any OD intervention, really ultimately is organization capability building. It goes way beyond that specific one-time intervention, but looks very much at the long term and at the big picture. This is what would make OD strategic. When we look at training, we need to go beyond the traditional learning evaluation measures and look at organizational capacity and capability building. And this means a lot of discipline for us as OD practitioners. We don't stop at level 1, just the reaction to the program, or level 2, learning that was gained. We go to level 3, making sure that it was applied in the workplace, and then zero in on level 4, returns to the business, and then new capabilities built. When we look at this, the value of OD becomes very clear because it becomes a strategic enabler of business growth. And measuring ROI is actually a shared responsibility between the internal HR specialist in charge of the program, as well as the external provider.
I would like to take a moment to first deeply thank all of our panelists. You've given some, groundbreaking, amazing, thought-provoking, deep insights that I think everyone's had a feast on. I'm sure everyone's really enjoyed that, and I certainly have. So thank you very, very much to our panelists. Very grateful to have you on here. Thank you.